Okay, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. After yesterday's clip of kind of showing that the tetrad is just not what you've been told it is, that we did not have the full lunar eclipse, I was reviewing the interview I did with Randy and looking at that weird pulsating effect that's all over the face of the moon right before the wave happens in Randy's footage. So what I did is I actually went back and looked at the wave that I found right before I went on the road trip. I haven't had really time to go over that clip very well, and I found some very interesting things. And when I began to run filters in the typical way that I do, like when I showed the energy pulse on the 2012 footage, I found some very interesting things. So what I'm going to do here is show that I think what Randy was saying, how this kind of pulsating effect that he said he could see optically may in fact be some kind of a fingerprint that the lunar wave is about to occur. Now, for anyone who follows the channel, they know that we have been having a hell of a time with chemtrails, and now, believe it or not, in Southern California it's raining. So as we come up to the prediction here for filming the 20th through the 30th, trying to catch the lunar wave, it makes me a little nervous that we may not have the greatest view. But here is Randy, the footage that I took with Randy in the interview, and here's the telescope that he's using and a rough version of the Sony Handycam. Now what I'm going to do is run the lunar wave that he captured with this equipment to show the kind of pulsating, then show the last clip that I did, and I'll cue you. It's going to come from the bottom right about now. Here it comes. Now there's 40 seconds in between these two lunar waves, so I've cut it. You'll see the cut, and then I'll tell you when the second one's coming. That was the cut. And here comes the second one. Now you can kind of detect the pulsating effect in the raw footage, or the really unmanipulated footage right there. But what we're going to do now is manipulate it to try to demonstrate it, and it'll get better as we go in. And I'll cue you, and here comes the wave now. And you'll see a cut where I shorten the interval so we don't have to wait 40 seconds. That was the cut. And here comes the second wave from the bottom. And I'm going to kind of ratchet up the filters that I'm running, because the find edge filter really does it. And here we are with the find edge filter, and you can really see the pulsating that's going on. Here comes the wave now from the bottom. There it is. And just look at that pulsating. There's the cut, and here comes the second wave from the bottom now. And I wanted to reiterate through this footage so that I can show you what I found in the kind of wave footage the night that it was so heavily chemtrailed. This is with the same filter but blended through a little bit to the original clip. Here comes the wave now. And you can still see that pulsating going on all over the moon. Here comes the cut to shorten the interval. There's the cut, and here comes the second wave from the bottom. And there it is. We're going to look at this one more time with one more set of filter adjustments to look at the pulsation that's going on. Now this is really a great view. Look at that pulsating. And here comes the wave now from the bottom. And here will come the cut and the clip to shorten down the interval. And here is the second wave coming from the bottom. Now we're going to switch over and look at the last wave that I caught the night that it was chemtrailing so heavily. So this is just the raw footage, and this is why I didn't find it so long, the wave and the footage, because I thought I just had a bunch of chem debris. But here comes from the top right now, here comes the wave. It's a little difficult to see, so look at the limbs of the moon. But what always struck me about this footage, and here will come the second wave, is that it cleared up right at the time the wave happened, and I thought that was really strange. I thought it was just chance. But watch as I run filters what goes on. So I'll cue you. Here comes the wave now from the top. Look at the limb of the moon, and you'll see the ripple so that you can pick it up. And then you'll see the second one, which is coming now. Now what I'm going to do is begin to run the filters so that you can see what I was not aware was in this clip before. Notice right out of the gate now, look at all that noise and kind of pulsation. Now, when the wave just started, watch how it clears up. So here comes the wave down through the equator, and look how that pulsating cleared up as the wave came across. And notice the big crater down near the bottom right. That's going to come into play here in a second. So I'm going to load the clip up again, and look, just all that kind of pulsating noise, and I'll cue you when the wave's going to start, and that pulsating clears up as the wave starts. It's getting ready to come from the top, and here it comes. There's the first wave, and it clears up. Here comes the second one. The second wave is at the crater. Watch that kind of purplish looking crater at the bottom. I'm going to zoom in on it and watch what happens as the first wave passes it. Now I'm running the find edge filter here. Now there's all the kind of static pulsating noise again. Get ready. The wave starts now. And look how quickly that clears up. Now watch the crater at the bottom there. Watch what happens. It kind of lights up as the wave goes over it. It's very strange. And even if you go back and view this a couple times, you'll notice that there's a couple other small parts of the moon that do this as the wave is passing. Here it comes again, and I'll cue you when the wave's going to start at the top. Here it comes at the top. Look at the limb. You can see it starting. And I'm going to zoom. Now watch as the wave comes across and how that crater just kind of flares up. It's so strange that the kind of pulsating clears up right as the wave begins, and that these craters kind of light up in a weird way. So what I did is I went back and grabbed the 2012 footage, which is the best we have, and I ran similar find edge filters, and look, it even looks a bit pulsatey. You can see it all over the whole face of the moon, that kind of frequency look, or I'm not sure how to describe it. So I think Randy might be right that this is some sort of a signature. So I'm just going to demonstrate here that the lunar wave in the 2012 footage does not cross the video frame. It was shot in 8:30 in the evening. This is speeded up just so you can see it. The problem is that your eye tries to drag it out to the edge of the frame. So what I'm going to do is mask the moon out with a black box. Now look outside the black box, and no lunar wave will go through that area. There is enough ambient light. A video engineer showed me how to add noise and kind of manipulate things to do this. But what was weird is it was such a coincidence that at the exact few seconds I needed the chemtrailing to kind of clear up so I could see the wave, when you run the find edge filter, you can see the chemtrail debris looks like almost pulsating, or like it's shading over pulsating. Then as the wave starts, it clears up immediately, and you can see the whole wave through, and as it goes down, it kind of has a weird effect on that bottom. I think it's Kepler, or I don't even know which one it is. I didn't look it up and I've forgotten, but I just thought it was interesting. So there it is. Cheers.
Hi, Blue Fox here. On September 27th, 2015, I took pictures of the eclipse of the moon. I set up my 5-inch telescope using a 17mm eyepiece and took these snapshots. You will notice in the pictures, stars show through the dark portions of the moon. And as I go through them, I'll blow them up a little larger so you can see these stars. I'll point to one. There's a blue star here, a white star. There's another star right here that shows up quite good. And that's that picture. Move on to the next one. You can actually see the stars here. Now we'll zoom in and we'll see a red star with a white star right in here. And then there's 3 stars, a white star, a blue star, and another blue star. And there's a white star pretty much over here. Okay, now this one here you can see the stars. 1, 2, that's pretty bright. And I'll zoom in on it. Now there's a red star, white star, showing through the moon, white star, and then a blue star again, with another star over here. And as we go further down, we see another blue star and a white star. There's more stars that I'm picking up on this film. They do have 2 stars out here and on the edge, but this is basically closer to the left side of the moon. Moving on, you can see 2 stars here. There's another star here, 2 stars down the bottom, and another star here. So we'll zoom that up for you. There's the one on the bottom. Some stars shining through. There's another 2 stars. Faint one in the background. And we have this star, this blue star, and this white star. Also we have 1 star shining through here. And we look at this, we see the stars shining through again. So what my point is, that is the moon transparent? I've heard people talk about that, and as I see these pictures, I see that there's stars shining through like they had predicted.
Rocket launch videos is the rocket is launched and it does not go the shortest path. We are told the shortest path is a straight line from A to B. What we see is these rockets arcing out over the ocean and then in many cases actually coming back down when the video cuts. I have said over and over again, my equipment is good enough to film one of these things going all the way out of our atmosphere, and yet there does not appear to be any video of that occurring. This is one more reason why I state that no one goes above low Earth orbit. As we watch this rocket taking 2 supposed astronauts to the International Space Station for 2 days, watch what happens. It's going up, but it's arcing hard, and what they've done is pulled a tight shot here so that you cannot see how much it's arcing. It's leveling off here, and right about here in this vicinity it starts to go back down. Now, we know that escape velocity takes one hell of a lot of energy. I forget what it is, 7,000 something feet per second or whatever it is. I've probably got that wrong. And look at this, right here you see the engines lose their efficiency. Look at all that smoke coming out. But this thing is going down now. To get back on point, a rocket launch should go straight up. It takes so much energy to get it there, and yet there is no footage that I have been able to find, that others have been able to find, of a rocket leaving our atmosphere, and it would not be that hard to film. Here's a rocket, supposedly has 2 astronauts in it, going to the fraudulent International Space Station, and what we see here is the rocket going back down. At any rate, we're told the rocket boosters have just fallen off, and then they cut away. So we see a rocket go up, level off, coming down, and then they cut away to instill this kind of stage-crafted image with their little stuffed animal as they're supposedly going to space. Now, moving along here, as many are aware, I filmed the lunar wave for the first time in 2012. We have had no official response from any source except one observatory in Norway or somewhere that gave me a one-sentence description saying it's atmosphere. Here, Google has taken it upon themselves to put an entry about the lunar wave, calling it a conspiracy above search returns. So there is the first official response I'm aware of. So here's the 2012 lunar wave footage. And regardless of whether or not I have described what I think is going on here correctly, or missed the mark, or come very close, the point I would make about what we have learned from the lunar waves and all the filmings to date is it has given us good reason to question the moon and what we have been told it is. Now, on this channel, there are very good videos that break down the energy pulse that occurs before this wave. There's just a litany of information. And what it demonstrates is we have every reason to question the moon, which is what led me to do this. This is a thought experiment using Google Earth. When I first thought about this and I began to implement it, it really astounded me. And the crazy thing is that there are other people out there, good on them by the way, who went out and did their own experiments, putting representations of the full size of the moon on the Earth and doing a 40,000 mile jump up. And what you find is, logically, common sense does not allow what we have been told about the moon to be true. Now, what I'm going to do here is take a known naked eye object called the Aristarchus crater. Quite often, you can only see it when the moon is near full, and it's like a little white dot that's generally on the left side of the moon. And it does rotate up towards the 12 as the night goes on in some places. But what I did is I went and looked at pictures of this and I traced it out, and it is less than 41 miles, but the white kind of smear in some images goes up to 41 miles. So the example that I'm going to use here is a 41-mile white representation on the Earth of the Aristarchus crater. And by the way, I have done other clips that demonstrate no two pictures of this crater look the same. And that is just ridiculous. Anyhow, let's zoom down here, and for added effect, I placed this crater in the national park called Craters of the Moon, or whatever it is. So here I am in Google Earth measuring it, and I will show you that it is roughly 41 miles across. Again, this is a listed naked eye object that we can see on the moon. So if you have good vision or glasses, when the moon is near full or full, you should be able to see this little white dot called Aristarchus. So what we're going to do here is jump up 40,000 miles away and see if we can see it, because Google Earth will not allow us to go any higher than 40,000 miles. Here we are at 40,000 miles, and I can no longer detect that crater, and yet the moon is 6 times more distant than this shot that I am providing. So there is logical, common sense data that demonstrates the distance of the moon doesn't match what we can demonstrate. Here we have a picture of the eclipse. Now look on the right side. You can see the sun showing through the darkened lunar disk. Now the blue line that comes up shows the lunar disk, or what we are told is the moon covering the sun. The red line that comes up shows the solar disk. So look at that right area. This has been predicted and demonstrated many times and suppressed. What you are seeing on the right side is the limb of the sun showing through the limb of the moon, or at least that's what we are told we are looking at when we're seeing a solar eclipse like this. There are many examples from old Royal Astronomical Societies and other astronomers who have witnessed near an eclipse things showing through the lunar disk or near the new moon. So again, we see these first-hand evidential things that allow us to call into question what we've been told. When you take something as simple as South America with map projections and satellite projections and begin to compare them, you will find what I found with the Aristarchus crater on the moon. No two are the same. In other words, they are all valueless in terms of getting a real image of the place we live, the place we call home, this world. And what that basically means is that it all needs to be questioned. We see so many people on YouTube now heading out with lasers to test for curvature of the Earth, taking long telephoto or telescopic shots to do the same thing, questioning the globe, and yet what the community as a whole is doing is belittling this effort. Look at Florida right here. Ridiculous. And belittling that effort makes absolutely no sense.
In all the many thousands of hours I've been out sky watching and filming, I have seen more fireballs come from the sky than I can count. We're told these are meteorites coming from the sky. And while I don't know if that's what those things are, I can tell you that if they were in fact space rocks, a number that I have seen, a large number, look like they may have struck Earth. Now, when you look at the moon, it looks like it's been in a shooting gallery. It looks like it's just been endlessly bombarded by these supposed meteorites. And yet, in all these thousands of hours of filming, I have never seen anything move or change on the surface of the moon to the point where I don't think it can be hit. And to top it off, I have begun to start to come to the conclusion that I believe the moon is emanating its own light. I don't think it's reflecting sunlight at all. And more will come on that soon, because myself and a couple people who are involved in kind of looking for the lunar wave are going to try to demonstrate that the quality of moonlight is vastly different than the quality of sunlight.
And given all the footage you have of the moon and other objects, I know we've spoken a lot about the lunar wave in this interview, but you've also caught a lot of interesting objects transiting the moon. Now, can you speak a little bit about that, and also whether you think that constitutes, really good evidence of, more fakery, or whether you still think that the lunar wave is the best piece of evidence that you've caught?
Well, in my estimation, the things that we're filming have never been described to us, and I will state for the record, the hardest thing you can try to film is a satellite transiting the moon that you can identify as a satellite that looks like a satellite. I've never done it.
Right.
So here I've filmed to date 6 lunar waves, which is among the hardest things you can try to film, and yet I still don't have a picture or footage of a satellite that I can ID. And not only that, most of the things that we're filming, and I'm not alone, there's a guy in Houston, another guy in New Jersey that are filming the exact same things I am filming, are these little black round objects. And they're all sizes, many speeds. Some of them, when you film them, look like they're elongated, but when you freeze the video frame, you'll see that they're round. They're just traveling so fast they have speed blur. But let's put this into context. When you look up at the moon, you can put your arm out at arm's length and hold your pinky up and cover the moon with your pinky, okay? The moon is a half a degree of sky, roughly, though it's supposed to change distances, so it varies, but roughly half a degree. So we have filmed so many of these little black things up there zipping around that you have to come to the conclusion that the sky must be absolutely full of them. For us to be filming them in this measly half a degree of sky staggers the imagination. And so when they go between my scope and the moon, they're so well backlit because the moon is bright, we can see them well. But I have a full spectrum camera that allows me to kind of light the sky up. If I move it off the moon, I can make the auto lighting kind of kick in. Sometimes we can get traces of them beyond the moon, but 90% of the time we can't see them at all unless they're backlit by the moon. And again, they're round, they're black, they often have a halo around them, and they don't match any description of any kind of satellite or anything else that we've ever been handed. And it is so blatant, in my view, that I have made clips informing people that you need to question satellites as they have been described to you, because I don't believe for a second that anything goes above low Earth orbit, and I'm not even sure that what we call low Earth orbit could be considered as space in the way that you've described it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and actually that segues nicely into what I was going to ask next, because I was going to get into the whole thing of the solar system, the sun, outer space. I mean, same thing. We've been taught in textbooks when we were little kids that this is the sun, this is how big it is. You know, we live in a galaxy, and that's in another galaxy, and on and on. I mean, how do we even know that any of that's true?
We don't, and I have clips up that question, with some pretty provoking thought experiments, the distance of the moon as an example.
It's just so interesting to me that they can, you know, say with such authority, oh, you know, we know that the sun's this far away and it's doing this and this, and they don't have any idea. I mean, either they have no idea or they're deliberately making up a story, and the deception runs so deep. I mean, they're deliberately fooling us about, you know, our very the place where we live, our very place in the universe. I mean, massive questions that are everyone's birthright to know. And these guys are just, you know, telling us the most outrageous lies and trying to pull off the most outrageous deception. It's just quite unbelievable.
Well, it's all coming home to roost now, and I think there is real reason to consider that there are land masses here on this world that we are unaware of, and that their misdescription of this world that we live in is one of the many things it does, besides keeping us all ignorant and making bad decisions our whole life, is that I think it's quite possible that there is a landmass that we do not know of or have access to. And when you look at things like chemtrailing, one of the vexing questions that was always asked me, and I'm stating for the record, chemtrails are 100% real. It is not an arguable thing. It is documented. It has been filmed by Lord knows how many people, and I have spent thousands of hours of my life filming it, predicting it, filming very weird objects around them. It's a real thing. But the question that kept being asked me was, why would anyone spray all this crap in the air if their kids were going to breathe it? And for the longest time, I was really vexed by that question. I thought, yeah, why would they do that? Are they immune? Is there some kind of genetic component here where what they're doing affects certain genes? I just couldn't come up with a logical reason. And then one day I got a comment on my channel from somewhere in northern India near the Himalaya that claimed they'd never seen a chemtrail in their whole lives, and they were sky watchers. And I thought, well, this is one guy. Well, then this happened a few times. People in that area of the world claiming that that kind of known pure area of the world had never experienced people reporting on YouTube that there were chemtrails. So I started thinking about that. Then when the flat earth argument began to crop up, and they were using things like the image of that big mosaic round thing in the middle of the table that shows a flat map of the earth, I began to consider that if Antarctica is truly guarded by 47 nations, or however many there are in that treaty, it's quite possible that there are land masses we're unaware of. And it's quite possible that there are places on this planet that are completely free of the effects of what's being done over the majority of city populations.